Hey, welcome. Let's talk about Gary Gensler, the rift between Gary Gensler and investors. Wanted to spend a few minutes on the exploration of impeachment. So, at a very high level, the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler, he is facing backlash from investors, especially those in the crypto and blockchain industries. So I wanted to do a overview because this is, in my opinion, this is what's missing that's no one's really talking about is the impeachment process and more importantly, the likelihood of its success. So let's start with who is Gary Gensler. So rise to prominence. Gensler, he's a former Goldman Sachs executive who served as the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and as an advisor to President Obama. He was appointed chairman of the SEC in 2021. And during his time, he's taken some aggressive stances. Gensler has taken an aggressive stance on regulating the financial industry, has demonstrated a keen interest in blockchain and crypto tech. And this has made him both a champion as well as a target of these two industries. And then in terms of his public perception, Gensler has been praised for his expertise. So as most of you know, he actually taught at MIT before becoming chairman, and he was teaching blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So he's got that background where he's, again, praised on his expertise and knowledge, but he's also been criticized for his heavy-handed approach and his strict regulatory style. Just a quick, level set on what is the SEC. So number one, what is it? So the SEC is the Security and Exchange Commission. It's a U.S. government agency, for those of you that may not be aware, and it's responsible for regulating the securities and markets and protecting investors. And then number two, what it does. So the SEC, it sets the rules for selling and trading stocks, bonds, and other securities, also investigates and prosecutes financial crimes and insider trading. And then number three, who does it affect? So the SEC affects all investors who buy or sell securities in the United States, as well as companies who issue securities to raise capital. So what are the complaints against Gensler? I put these into, I'll call them three buckets. So number one, we've got crypto regulation, two, conflict of interest, and number three is lack of transparency. So on the crypto reg side, Gensler's been criticized for his aggressive and strict approach to regulating the crypto industry, which some believe will stifle innovation and growth. And then in terms of conflict of interest, some have accused him of having a conflict of interest due to his previous work with financial institutions and his relationship with Wall Street. I could have gone on and on about this, but I thought that this would be kind of a good high level, kind of elevator description of his conflict. And then lack of transparency. So he's been accused of being, hiding things in his decision making and failing to consult with key stakeholders within the blockchain and the cryptocurrency space. And it's just so interesting because this lack of transparency, that word transparency, and there's one tech, in my opinion, that solves all that. It's just so ironic, and that is blockchain. Okay, so now let's just dig in a little bit about the actual impeachment process. And this is what I alluded to at the top of the video is I think this is something that's missing, and I wanted people to understand the steps and the requirement for this impeachment process for the SEC chairman to begin and actually come to fruition. So number one, initiating the impeachment. So impeachment of the SEC chairman, it can be initiated by a member of Congress through the introduction of a resolution. And then number two, once number one happens, the passage. So this needs to be passed by the House of Representatives and then pass the resolution with a simple majority vote. And with Robert's Rules of Orders, the majority vote is 52%. And then number three is a trial in the Senate. So there has been no trial, and we're a long ways from that. So if the resolution passes the House, the Senate holds a trial to determine if the chairman should be impeached. Now, this one is a 2/3 majority. So if you remember up here, This is a majority vote. And according to Robert's Rules of Order, we need a 2/3 majority vote, which is required for a conviction and a removal of office. And so let's say that happens. Again, let's say if that happens. So if the chairman is convicted, if he is convicted and he is barred from holding any federal government position of the future. So I thought I'd talk about the probabilities, not what's possible, but if we think in terms of probabilities of the overall impeachment. I broke this down into 3 categories as well. So there's political hurdles, now there's support for Gensler, and then we've got the public pressure. So let's start with the public hurdles. So the impeachment of the SEC chairman, this is rare. It's a rare occurrence, and it requires significant political will in both the House and the Senate. And then number 2, support for Gary Gensler. So he has some support from the members of Congress and the Biden administration, which it'll make this much more difficult in terms of the overall process. And then number 3, and you can clearly feel this on social media, but the crypto and blockchain communities, they're putting pressure on Congress to initiate the impeachment proceedings. But it remains to be seen if this will be successful. So now that we went through the probabilities, let's talk out loud about the possible outcomes. So what happens if, in fact, he is removed or if he's not? So let's start with number 1. Let's say is removed. So if Gensler is convicted and removed from office, it could lead to significant changes in the SEC's approach to regulating the financial and crypto industries. And then let's say hypothetically that he's not convicted and he stays in office. So if the proceedings for the impeachment fail, it's likely that Gensler will remain in his position as the chairman of the SEC, but may face increased scrutiny and oversight from Congress, which, we're seeing and feeling that now. And then number 3, and there's no downside to this in my opinion, but increased collaboration. Anytime you have these, I'll call them sandpaper conversations, it does solicit collaboration. So there is some positive to this, but regardless of the outcome, it is possible that the impeachment proceedings could lead to an increased collaboration between the SEC and the crypto industry. And again, just my opinion, but when we get into circumstances like this, over communications, especially from leadership, is key. So this would be much welcomed. So in conclusion, again, just to recap, this impeachment of the SEC chairman is a complex and a rare process. It really does. It requires a significant political grit and will. So while there are valid complaints against Gensler, the probability, though, if you remember, of the impeachment it's uncertain. Regardless of the outcome, the crypto and the blockchain industries, we're going to just have to continue to play a significant role in the financial markets and the regulation. So net, we're still a long ways off, but in my opinion, I'm really happy that there is a lens or a light on Gensler and the SEC, because it really is. It's soliciting good or better communication, but we still have a long road to go. So last thing is, I just wanted to put this together to kind of set expectations, because this is not, if this process does get started, it's not going to happen overnight. This is going to take a long time. So anyways, I hope that was helpful and I hope that was insightful, and thanks so much.